Good day to you. Well, here it is. We've reached the end of this book, Global Media Studies. Some of you are probably pretty glad about that. But it is time to take on the conclusion in this book and try and understand the journey that it's taken us on. It's been one long narrative, really. It's been a series of arguments that build into a macro argument that try to help us understand global media studies. And we're going to trace that argument in our final lecture today and hopefully open it up for you to be able to write your final country media post. So let's start with that term, global media studies, to begin with. It's a combination of media and media products that are circulating all across the world through the various means of distribution that take place when media are sent around the world. You've got satellite communication, you've got telephone communication, you've got wireless communication, you've got physical newspapers, you've got radio broadcasting, TV broadcasting, you've got exhibition of films in theaters. And then there's the whole advertising side of media that appears on our shirts and billboards and bumper stickers. And the mass media are circulating all over the world, and it is all part of this culture that the book wanted to describe as global media studies. But global media studies is not simply taking a look at media as they are exerted around the world. Global media studies is trying to take a comprehensive understanding of media by looking at political economy. Political economy is politics and the economy of media. And that's what this book has been studying all semester long. And at the outset of this chapter, it mentions the NICL, the New International Cultural Division of Labor, NICDL. Sorry, New International Culture Division of Labor. It's not a clean acronym to say. The concept is more important. Basically, it's that the world has devolved, if I can use that word, into an economic structure that is unfair and unequal and environmentally damaging, which is to say that the people who make our cell phones and make our TVs and make the ink that we read on newspapers, those people, as well as all the people, including yourselves, who are typing every single day on social media, you are all contributing value to media content that's out there, but you are not compensated. You're not compensated with income in accordance with the value that you are generating for the really huge companies that exist out there. The transnational global media conglomerates like Disney and News Corporation. Those companies, along with all the others out there, are reaping the benefits every single day of people working in some cases, unfair working conditions. In many cases, south of the hemisphere, you find those people who are working in poor countries. You find them in Ecuador, find them in Honduras. The same can be said in Asia. You find them in parts of China. You find them in Taiwan. So this is an entire economic structure that is guiding the production of media content around the world, and there's a lot of unfairness in it. And that's mainly because what is driving the spread of media around the world is a free market fundamentalism. Free market fundamentalism, you can call it capitalism if you like. It's profit making. It's the constant striving for new markets to market products to. And because of that, the way that global media have been affected is cultural boundaries have been diluted or taken down. There is very little difference between pop music between Canada and the United States when you're looking at English music, because they've fused together, right? You've got a lot of Canadian artists, as we've mentioned. Justin Bieber, the first one, come over here, and we have American artists that, of course, are being played in Canada. So that boundary that separates that 3,000-mile boundary between us and the second biggest country in the world, which is what Canada is, doesn't exist in some ways when it comes to radio. And so we can say that the unfettered capitalism that is behind the drive for media companies to expand and grow and make more money has taken down some cultural barriers. Now, the authors also want to make sure that we are understanding that when we are talking about global media studies, we are merging two concepts there. We're merging media and global. And we're merging those through the vast networks that media use to distribute the content. That's what brings these two together, because otherwise you'd be sitting watching television in your own home, and you wouldn't be joining together with millions or perhaps even billions of other people watching the same TV show across different time periods in different countries. Same with the web. You wouldn't necessarily be Googling the same terms as other people across the world if there wasn't this vast interconnection of technologies and software and means of transmission that's going on across the world. So media and global have become combined. And the dominant political economy, once again, to put it in plain terms, is advertising. That's the dominant political economy. There are other political economies that you could have in the media. You could have government funding. You could have license fees. You can have subscriptions. You can have donations. You can have trusts that are set up. You can have military-funded operations, military-funded media. Those are all other methods of financing media, which we've discussed in this class. But the predominant method that we have across the United States, the predominant political economy, is advertising. And what that does is it takes culture, the way that you grow up living, the things that you do, not only as a Pennsylvanian, but as an East Stroudsburgan, as, whether it's a Dunkin' Donuts coffee that you've got to have every morning, or whether it's taking a shower before you go out into the day, or whether it's making sure that you smell a certain way, that you use fragrances to achieve. Those are the kinds of things that are part of our lifestyle. And so what happens when you have capitalism and you have media that are reaching new heights driven by capitalism, or we can say, as we've been saying, we can call it free market fundamentalism. What you have is the taking of culture, the way that we live our lives, and dividing it up and exporting it. Culture becomes, as the book says, raw material for moneymakers. It becomes slices and products that is so sapped up and then exported. And in this new paradigm where we are all taking our culture, what we're doing every single day, and putting it on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat, we're showing people where we're going. We're showing people what we're eating. We're telling people who we're hanging out with. We're letting people know what we're upset with. By putting our own culture on the web, we are causing a fundamental shift in the paradigm between the relationship between the audience and media content makers. The book discusses that. It says how what has been flipped on its head is, first of all, we are no longer readers, but we are now all writers. And when you're on the web and you're interacting, you're no longer at that receiving end of the process. You are now a writer as well as a reader, and that causes a new change in mindset. You are no longer similarly a listener. Now you are a speaker. When you FaceTime, when you YouTube, when you put anything on the web that carries your voice and your presence, you're becoming a speaker and instead of just listening. And then similarly, viewers, and this one comes into play, especially in the context of Instagram, when viewers are now stars. That's right. By becoming a viewer, becoming a person who likes a lot, who shares a lot, you are also raising your profile, raising your followers potentially, and becoming a star. That's what many people consider themselves are, even if they don't say it flat out, by virtue of the number of followers they have on social media and by virtue of the number of people who comment on their stuff. So where does this all take us? It takes us to a brand new world that's turned on its head. But most of all, according to this book, in order for there to be any kind of social justice, there needs to be a redivision of that labor, the NID, the National International Cultural Division of Labor. There needs to be a new division of labor where the people who are working in conditions that are less than desirable are paid for the value that they are adding to the media, to the global media marketplace. Even to call it a marketplace is to accede to the idea that the dominant political economy is capitalism and is revenue enhancing. So where does this leave us with this book? It doesn't really leave us with a firm plan to go forward. It leaves us on the doorstep of the inequities that exist out there. But at the same time, its main job was to raise our critical and cultural awareness of the media that we've been studying. And so it's going to leave some unanswered questions, but at least you have more awareness. Now that we've reached the end of the chapter and it's time for you to make your final country media post, this one is going to be an open free write. As you prepare for your term paper, which I'm going to be describing next week, the assignment requirements. But in the meantime, you can start to pull back from the country you've been studying and think to yourself, what is one area that you really haven't studied when it comes to media in your country? What's that one area you want to know more about? This is your chance to do that, and you're ramping up for getting ready to write the final paper. So have a great day.